Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Waking Flame patch notes. Update 31 has arrived with all of the changes that we've been excited for. This video is going to be mostly reading out the changes and talking about my thoughts on them. So it is going to be long, and it is going to be rambly and rather lightly edited, if edited at all. But with that out of the way, let's get into this. So, first off, we have the new DLC, the Waking Flame Dungeons. We have a Red Petal Bastion, which gives us a nightly order in Glenumbra. Frickin' finally, we get more Breton stuff. And the Dread Cellar, hidden in the depths of Blackmarsh, far from prying eyes, a torture chamber meant to hold those the Empire wanted to vanish. 4-player dungeons in Glenumbra and Blackwood, respectively. Red Petal Bastion is in east of Burial Mounds in northeastern Glenumbra, and the Dread Cellar is in northern Blackwood and northwest of Wilk. Both dungeons have normal and vet. They each also feature challenging hard modes for each of the bosses. This was introduced, I want to say, in Stonethorn, but I'm not confident in that sentence. There might be hard modes in Ice Reach as well, or the Harrow Storm DLC. I don't remember. If anyone does know, feel free to put that in the comments. And there are unique item sets, including two new Undaunted monster sets, only available in the dungeons. There's also unique body and face markings, a unique memento, several titles, and unique housing items. So now let's look at the new sets. I'm going to be honest, these have not changed since the last time we talked about them. So we've got Scorian's Feast, which looks like it's going to be good for dungeons still as a healer. So definitely something worth picking up for dungeon groups. We've got Rush of Agony, which is still the same when you do a Blink, Charge, Leap, Teleporter, Pull. It yanks everyone in, and then deals physical damage after a moment. This is still pretty good, and it still doesn't apply CC immunity, so you can yank everyone in and then stun them. I do want to play with this on a werewolf, because, especially for a solo wolf, you jump in, everyone gets yanked to you, and then you do your howl to stun them, and then just Claws of Life, and try and just massacre the group. It feels like it could be pretty decent as like a crowd control tool for that sort of solo build. Definitely something to look into. Don't know if it's actually going to be that good. Probably pair it with Sogvins for the bonus crit and werewolf. And finally, and then we have Crimson Oath's Rive. This is the set that this is the set from this expansion, flat out. At least from a PvE perspective. I am going to read out and comment that the new PvP sets are there. I don't know enough about them to say anything more than that. But Crimson Oath's Rive is an Alkosh that works better for what we want as PvE player, as tanks, that is also in heavy armor with tank bonuses. Frickin' finally. I am going to be farming, what's it called? I am going to be farming Dread Cellar because I want both Scorian's Feast and Crimson Oath's Rive. Because they're both amazing. And finally, we have Magma Incarnate, which is the, like, mini Yulnakran monster set that could be decent on tanks and dungeon settings. Assuming you want to run, like, Rive and then either another heavy or a medium or light set, I could see running Incarnate Rive Olorime for dungeons now. Especially if you're not if you're planning to go 3DDs. Uh, Real quick, let's pull back up a little bit, look at some of these developer comments. Magma Incarnate, the Daedric energy always prioritizes lower health group members that have not already been hit. And reminder that this only bounces 3 times, so this you only want for dungeon groups. Which, if you're doing dungeon progs, and you're running 3DDs in a tank, this is probably worth it, because it's both a offensive and defensive set for you, which could be worth it. Crimson Oaths Rive. The set will become a core group set. The puns they burn. And Rush of Agony's comment. Expect to see a lot of power from this set with its ability to pull enemies without applying CC. In early playtesting, we experimented both with or without, and with it, the pull felt challenging to engage with, as your goal was to keep everyone clumped up for a long period of time for the boom, but you couldn't do it. With no immunity application, we hope there's both enough time to get out before you get hit with a big stun like Dawnbreaker of Smiting and the explosion from the set, and with enough room to try and deny your opponent doing that. Note that this will still respect CC immunity and not pull targets who are immune to CC. So basically, the idea for this is that it's a PvP set where you can essentially kill large groups with it. I still think it will be decent in solo PvP or solo PvE stuff, because getting everyone into a clump and then rooting them is still going to be very good. Finally, and next we have Red Petal Bastion. Not finally, we're way far from done. We're just talking about the new sets. Thundercaller hasn't changed much. It's still shock damage that deals damage for 6 seconds every 12 seconds. Not a terrible proc set, but not a great one either. Grizzly Gourmet. Okay. We need to talk Zos. So Grizzly Gourmet, max stamina, weapon and spell damage, offensive penetration, and then slightly more max stamina at 5. But dealing a light attack gives Baker's Delight for 5 seconds. When you gain 3 stacks, you create a sweet roll. If you or an ally touches the sweet roll, both you and an ally gain one of the 3 following effects. Restore resources, gain Empower for 10 seconds, or gain Major Force for 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, we're spawning one of these. And in an organized group, in a dungeon setting, where you spawn it, and then person A picks it up, you spawn it, and then person B picks it up, and then you spawn it, and then person C picks it up, and you guys keep going through that rotation, even if it's only just you and the other DPS picking these up, you're still gonna get a ton of damage out of this one set. I legitimately think that this is going to be the chase set for Stam DDs this patch. At least for dungeon content, because 10 seconds of Empower and 10 seconds of Major Force, basically for free, is nothing to scoff at. They keep putting out these new and better sets for stamina, and it's just, at what point do we have too many crazy stamina sets that are still overshadowed by Reliquid? Anyways, on to the heavy set. Silver Rose's Vigil, heavy. Stamina, health, and stamina. Blocking an attack gives you Realm Shaper, gaining 1 stack every half second. 3 stacks consumes them and launches necrotic energy at your attacker, dealing magic damage and applying major maim, reducing the damage done by 10%. You cannot gain stacks of Realm Shaper after this fires for 12 seconds. So, I don't think this is good. And the reason I don't think this is good is because if we go to the ability to, we already have Major Maim from Bonnie's Torment consistently, and from Lady Thorn consistently. I don't think that Silver Rose Vigil is worth the 5 pieces. And even beyond that, if memory serves, we're getting it from one of the new things anyways. Or not. I might be misremembering. And then we have Prior Theric, which adds weapon and spell damage on 1, and on 2, dealing direct damage with an area of effect ability creates a 6-meter shadowy whirlwind below your enemy for 7 seconds. Enemies in this whirlwind take physical damage each second and increase their damage taken from your AoE effects by 5%. This effect can occur every 15 seconds. So it's not going to have the greatest uptime, but you've got this really good AoE effect that increases your other cleave effects. And while I'm going to be honest, stamina needs more AoE, and I feel like this will help. I also feel like this is probably just going to get thrown on trash setups half the time anyways. I don't think it's better than Dama House for that, but I think it's close. And is probably going to end up working, being used by them anyways. New collectibles, outfit styles, and dyes. Magma Incarnate Helm and Shoulders and Prior Theric Helm and Shoulders can rarely be obtained by completing the dungeons on Veteran. That's kind of cool. That is actually really cool. I like that. Mentos, the Agamemnon Stone can be obtained by earning the Dreadseller Conqueror achievement. So beat Dreadseller. That looks like it might be the. I don't remember. Are the Conqueror achievements the DLC or not the DLC? The trifectas, the veteran. No, it's not the trifectas. The trifectas have weird names. I think Conqueror is doing it on vet. It might be doing it on normal though. Arcane Analyst is probably a trifecta, and the body is Conqueror. Pyreling is from Explorer, so that's entering. Moonshadow Orchid is Delver, which I believe is complete both of them on normal or veteran. New bust and trophy furnishings. In addition, completing these dungeons on any difficulty unlocks the purchases of 2 new achievement furnishings from the Undaunted Quartermasters, Silver Rose Banner, and the Agamemnon Stone Inert. 47 new achievements, 4 new titles, 6 new collectibles, and 1 new die. Of the Silver Rose is from Bastion Breaker. Secret Artifacts is Prior Offenses. The Dreaded is Battlespire's Best, and the Incarnate is earned from Unshaken. Okay. So, PvP changes. Existing no CP and Imperial City campaigns now also prohibit proc sets. Have expanded the number of sets from the original grouping that worked during the initial test. So, the following sets will now function. So, the following sets will now function in these campaigns: Ethereal Ascension, Dragon Guard, Agility, Amber Plasm, Archer's Mind, Armor of the Seducer. You get the idea. This is so basically we have a list of sets that will work in there. That are somewhat limited. And Volendrung does not appear in no CP, no proc. I'm not going to pretend to know what this means for PvP or for the no CP PvP set areas because I don't do PvP. So we're going to just this is the part that's very much not me talking about it and very much me just saying, "Hey, this exists. If you care about this, you probably know more about it than what I can tell you anyways." Uh Rewards for the worthy. Dark Convergence. This is the Zerg killer set. Uh Leave an effect on the ground that will create an area that applies 60% snare and pulls enemies every 2 seconds after a 0.5 seconds delay, and stuns them for 1 second. After 4 seconds, it explodes, dealing magic damage to all enemies, and additional magic damage to enemies within 3 meters of the center, increasing the damage 10% for each target hit. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds and scales off the higher of your weapon and spell damage. It's a bomb. It's another bomb to delete groups with. Cue the evil laughter here. Plague Break. Plague Break is puts plagues on them that it makes them explode, dealing more damage for additional 10% per enemy hit. And if it's cleansed. So this is basically stop cleansing the group randomly and be ready to heal and play around the fact that you might need to heal. And then there's Hrothgar's Chill, which stunning or immobilizing causes them to burst with frost magic, applying chilled, and dealing 26% of their total physical and spell resist as frost damage to themselves and enemies within 8 meters. Huh. That could prove very interesting. With... Are enemies considered to have physical and spell resist, or just armor? Because if they have a physical and spell resist, that could be a decent chunk of damage to throw on a tank in just trash clearing situations. Though that's probably still not worth it. I don't know. There could be some shenanigans you could do with Hrothgar's Chill in PvE, but all of these feel like pretty good PvP sets. There might be a place for a Dark Convergence like trash setup, but I think we have better options. Multi-thread rendering is an optional performance option available in the video settings. It enables a separate thread to render processes which can improve performance and provide a smoother overall experience if the limiting factor is CPU processing rather than GPU processing. It can only be applied after a client restart, and it is currently in beta. New rules to determine things you'll interact with when there's conflict. Generally speaking, interactable objects that are valuable, such as resource nodes and lootable corpses, will gain priority over things that are mobile or player-made, such as companions and mementos. Thank goodness. You should also have less of a problem attempting to interact with doors, die station, and other permanently available interactable objects, even when they're surrounded by Jubilee cakes as sorcerer pets. Praise the divines. It's over. Sorcerer's reign of terror has finally come to an end. We can now reply to received mail. 31 will bring a few new collectibles and items you can acquire. Urglag will now offer Moongrave Fane, Lair of Marslock, and Ice Reach monster masks and shoulders for costume stuff. Emotes. The Wargame Trebuchet can now be obtained by earning the Siege Specialist achievement. And the Grave Elegance mask can be obtained by earning Lyrith's Liaison. Huh. Guessing that's one of the new achievements? Probably something. This might be do the quests for those 2 dungeons. Rolus Halu has 7 new furnishings. And his prior set has been handed over to his assistant. And there's a bundle for the Western Skyrim ones. And 21 structural furnishing recipes are now available in Leowyn reward coffers, which can be obtained by completing the World Boss or Delve Boss dailies in Blackwood. Variety of walls and platforms, as well as several doors, a wooden stairway, and other structural elements. So, if you have Blackwood, there are more Leowyn rewards things available. When you finish the tutorial and pick a portal, you'll get a short cutscene for the quest. I might have to look at those and see what all comes up. Fixes and improvements to companions. Idle animations are smoother. Bastion now verbally responds less to high-quality loot. Companions no longer grieve fallen group mates. Minor text issues and discrepancies. Could display issues with the companion's eyes while crouched or running. Frequency of command reduced the frequency of companion responses to specific player behaviors. Fix an issue which would cause them to provide incorrect dialogue in Gloomreach. Would try and attack certain monsters. They would try and attack before they were fully there. Bows equipped could randomly rotate. Miri now correctly responds to you at the intended frequency when crafting alcohol. No longer gains rapport when looting Psijic portals. Miri will now properly face the character prior to leaving in disgust if your rapport is low enough. Improved and adjusted pathing behavior. Quicken trait will no longer affect roll dodge, break free, and bash. That's interesting. A little bit sad. Fixed an issue which would cause their dialogue to not update correctly after accepting a personal quest. A rare issue which would result in them not being visible but still interactable. Will now occasionally respond to additional situations such as being healed and witnessing their player gain a champion point. I could have sworn they already responded to being healed. You no longer talk to companions while they are mounted and have a quest. Guild skill lines now correctly max out at 10. Fixed an issue which prevented daggers from dropping off monsters as expected. That's a little bit of a weird one, but okay. Companions using ranged weapons abilities could fail to reposition as expected when out of line of sight. Thank goodness, Miri might actually be useful more. Group display will now switch to a large group upon reaching more than 4 total members of both players and companions. Okay, cool. That's actually really good. Because this lets you have 3 friends and let all of them have their companions and just do dailies together as a bigger group. That's nice. That's very nice. Fission nicks you with a fire invisible arrows. Bastion and Miri will now react when you level up or gain champion points. Okay. Miri no longer responds to boats. Oh. Miri is not going to complain whenever I get anywhere near a boat about getting seasick. That's a little bit sad. I kind of enjoyed that interaction. Rare issue that could cause unintended visits to occur with companions, which when previewing certain cosmetics in the Crown Store. Okay. And then we have Rockgrove Changes. Baskin Snakes will now correctly fire abilities as intended. 3 perfected rather than 2 from hard mode. That's nice. Geysers inside Rockgrove will now once again deal damage to players waiting in them. Gee, the scalding water burns. Bosse will now play appropriate interrupt animations when interrupted. And Oakotsil, I believe that's how that's said. Oxy. We're gonna call him Oxy. Blistering Smash will no longer deal damage if Oxy is defeated during the cast. Dova Flies will no longer appear in Blackwood. Certain Fiendroths and Oblivion Portals were dropping too much bait. Female Marshrot Fire Mages will no longer drop loot as if they were a Delve boss. That is a very specific one. What caused that? Is there like a specific Marshroot Fire Mage that is a Delve boss and therefore its loot table got mixed up with every female Marshrot Fire Mage? That'd be kind of funny if so. Fix the sets for several Blackwood quest reward armors to match their armor class. Hackwings in Volnax's Ruins drop extra loot. Or no longer drop extra loot. Reward potions for the quest Things Lost, Things Found will now scale properly to your level. Markarth structural furnishing recipes will drop from the Leowin rewards coffer. And an issue where an imaginary book motif for the Deadlands Gladiator outfit style made its way into the lore library. Ooh, okay. I mean, would you be able to read it if you had it? Because if so, I want to know what it said. Achievements, correct the minor typo in Multiplanar Devastator achievement name. Cool. Disabled the Kodogava Broodmaster spawning near the Way Shrine. Updated the zone guide's notable achievement section to include more entries to be in line with other zones. Now includes Oblivion Obliterators, Silent Halls, and Zenithar's Abbey group events. Clockwork. Added boss immunity to Lethra's Shadow and Bonafide. Pyre of Ambition fixed an issue where Dagon's face did not animate while speaking. Dragonhold, a rogue in his rice, fixed an issue where one of the rice sacks of this quest wasn't properly instanced for everyone, leading to an unpleasant rice looting experience. Fixed a typo in the second lore entry for Chain of the Werewolf. Updated the Tide Glass Beads Antiquity lead to also have a chance to drop from any alchemy harvesting node in Shadowfen. Okay, so now this makes earning the what's it called? Harpooner's Waiting Kilt easier, and more importantly, makes it much less frustrating because you just need to find alchemy nodes, and those are much more common than water alchemy nodes and pure water. Can now get married in solitude. Toldir can be looted if murdered. Black Rose boxes can be opened by characters below 50. Some doors in Firemoth now tell you why you can't open them. Foreman Nox can be pickpocketed now. You can now loot Caldera mushrooms, and Dwemer supply some Dwemer supply crates now have proper collision. Mess Hall of Misery, they renamed Bat Swarm to Harrowing Bat to better differentiate the two sources. That's nice. That is very nice, actually. Extra furnishing recipes. Fish and Ixu, which could result in extra furnishing recipes dropped in Murkmire. Oh. Orsinium treasure maps are now Rothgar treasure maps. So they properly reflect the zone. Felidrin now has a map pin for the very first step to accept jewelry crafting certification. Alright. Combat and gameplay. This is the other one we need to talk about. There's a good chunk of changes here, so let's get moving. Back end of Taunt got fixed up to follow intended behavior better. This is meant to try and fix some of the issues that you have that happen with taunts, where they sometimes lose context. Have issues when range taunting and race conditions have race conditions where some parts of the hidden behaviors would still apply to a target even if you fail to taunt. Hopefully this fixes some of the problems that happen with taunting on occasion. I hope. Certainly make tanking easier and the lives of your tanks easier. Break freeze follows more consistent rules now. Reduce situations where it desyncs stamina while using, as well as improving the response time and validating if you have enough resources to cast. Reduce the cost have been changed to be handled naturally by the server rather than as an ability to speed up the validation in cases where you are using many of them. So break free is more consistent. That's nice. There have been times where it feels like I can break free 6 times, and then times where on the same character with basically the same amount of stamina and stamina regen, I feel like I can't break free at all. Battle Spirit reduces damage taken, increases the healing received penalty, and no longer detail the effective strength of these changes to prevent potential confusion. This is a PvP thing, so I don't know what to think about it. These, however, these are interesting. So these are these also haven't changed since the last time I mentioned them. Agility now grants weapon and spell damage. Balanced Warrior now grants armor and weapon and spell damage. Brutal Carnage now gives weapon and spell damage. Concentration now gives offensive pen. Dexterity is now critical healing done. up to 2% at the final rank per piece of medium armor, rather than granting weapon critical. Flawless Dawnbreaker now gives equal weapon and spell damage. Prodigy now gives equal crit chance. Savage Strength now gives equal weapon and spell damage. Scaled Armor now gives armor rather than spell resistance, and Slayer now gives equal weapon and spell damage percentages. This is interesting because it means that, especially for a couple of these, so Balanced Warrior, and Scaled Armor are both pretty good, are just pretty good straight buffs to Templar and Dragonknight respectively. Brutal Carnage I don't think matters, because if you're casting Brutal Carnage, you're really not using your spell damage much unless you've got a set for that. But agility, and dexterity are the medium armor passives, and then concentration and prodigy are the light armor passives. So your light armor is now giving you weapon crit and physical penetration, as well as the bonuses it was already giving, and you're getting spell damage, and critical heal damage from your armor. However, we are losing something. We are losing on stamina builds I want to say 14% critical chance with this. And I don't know what to think of that. I feel like stamina builds are going to try and spring for more critical sets now. We might be seeing more Sogvin and AY coming back into the meta, because you just need more critical to make up for the fact that we lost 14% crit but gained 14% critical damage. I don't know. Maybe Sogvin Leviathan will be a thing now. That'd be funny. Wouldn't that be funny? Sogvin Leviathan as stamina DPS? I actually might try that out and see how it goes. The other interesting one is that Slayer, so this is the Fighters Guild passive, now gives equal weapon and spell damage. And with Flawless Dawnbreaker now also giving equal weapon and spell damage, we might run Flawless Dawnbreaker on Magicka builds now. That is something that might be worth trying out, because we get the bonus spell damage passive from Slayer, and we get spell damage from Flawless Dawnbreaker, and ultimate scale off your highest defensive stat for their damage. That might be worth considering. In the same way that you see a lot of like parse checks running parsing stamina builds running what's it called? Meteor on their back bar, just as a huge damage spike, because it's still good damage even on a stam DPS. That might be something that's worth looking into and worth trying out this patch. Multiple issues where ability bar timers displayed incorrect durations. Numerous issues with synergies failing to be considered ability casts. Know that the requirements that check for abilities with the cost will still fail with synergies. So synergies are now considered ability casts, but if it's supposed to cost something, still doesn't count for that. New AoE ability scriptings, such as Dragonknight Standard or Negate Magic, no longer hit additional targets. Player abilities no longer attempts to remove stealth or invisibility when they shouldn't. Can also be expanded to any damage over time effect rather than only single target damage over time effects, as we want to remove and denial of stealth or invisibility. That might be meant to be like AoE denial of stealth or invisibility rather than to be more active. Or want the remove and denial of stealth and invisibility to be more active rather than passive. This means only player abilities that should remove stealth are area of effect direct damage, stuns, fears, or immobilizes, as well as reveals. Okay, that's interesting. So that is a bit of a like Nightblade buff in PvP. I don't know how much. Attacks were checking in areas rather regularly to hit single targets could target stealth or invisibles, such as Force Pulse or Shrouded Daggers. Any attack that checks an area to attack single targets will no longer attempt to even apply to targets under these effects. To improve the consistency and reliability of things like Shadow Cloak, while also stamping out more deliberate rules on what should counter them. Spend a lot of time helping these effects to be more reliable, and we also buffed many of the deliberate sources of stealth and invisibility denial to make countering them feel better and to be better rewarding for going out of your way to utilize them. Guaranteed crit chance and damage on successful sneak attacks could, in some cases, apply to multiple attacks at once. Fix the issue where multiple heals based on damage over time were not considered healing, such as blood craze or structured entropy. That's pretty good. It'll probably make them feel more consistent. It does change the champion points that affect them, but that's fine. You're usually not slotting them on anyone that's running those unless you're, a Zen healer, I guess. Maybe. Do you run Structured Entropy or do you run degen on Zen MK healer? I don't know. I don't know which morph you take. I just know you run that skill. Fix an issue where the adjusting your camera options could cause your character to always rotate and face the same direction in some situations. Corrosive armor now grants offensive pen rather than only physical. And its pen check was not consistent with other sources. So that's fixed. Molten weapons can now cast on nearby neutral enemies. I don't know why that needed to be fixed. Unnerving Bone Yard is now considered an AoE. Why wasn't that originally? Okay. Bonus damage from this ability in the Morph's third cast has now been built into their coefficients rather than as a bonus modifier. Clean out some calculation errors that resulted in less damage when stacking multiple bonuses. Okay. Flame Skull's a little better. I don't know how much we actually use Flame Skull. I don't feel like we do. A lot of times you don't you don't use spammable rotations on Necro because you just benefit from dots so heavily. Shadow Cloak. Fix an issue where this ability and morphs protections could work even if the attacker has a detection potion active. Ball of Lightning now only absorbs one projectile. Now only intercepts projectiles from the caster rather than any ally in the ball's vicinity. Light attacks from Overload now break stealth when cast. There is nothing sneaky about lobbing giant bolts of lightning at your foes. Backlash got the backlash buffs went through. Now retains 50% of the damage dealt to the target, up from 20, to help more reliable in PvP. The final explosion now scales off your spell or weapon damage, rather than magicka or stamina. The final explosion now also scales with both positive and negative bonuses, rather than only negative ones. Haha, backlash, go boom. Radiant Destruction, and specifically Radiant Oppression, got buffed. Both morphs had this ability, had scaling coefficients with less significant figures than intended, resulting in some very minor damage loss. And Oppression no longer increases the damage done with the ability based off your current magicka, but instead increases the damage scaling of the execute multiplier to 500%. This should retain roughly the overall maximum power of the morph, but with far less micromanagement. Thank goodness no one needs more micromanagement in an MMO. Green balance is buffed. Okay, that's pretty decent for Warden, healers, and sometimes tanks. Frozen Gate now lasts longer and doesn't have the issue of it removing itself before the timer ran out. That's pretty nice. And now we're getting into the bigger stuff. Destruction Staff, Ancient Knowledge. Better discerns what is an AoE and what isn't with its bonus damage based off your staff type. Increase the bonus of both Inferno and Lightning Staff type to 5/10, up from 4/8, to better match the power of Twin Blade and Blunt or heavy weapons. I don't think that last change was needed. I think Magicka was doing just fine without more buffs, thank you. Destructive Touch got overhauled. So this ability and its morphs now guarantee their respective element status effect on hit. Increase the cost to 2,970, up from 2,700 to incorporate this added effect. Increase the range to 15 meters from 14 for better consistency, since Clench was already 15. Frost Touch and Reach of this ability now deal 80% more damage on its initial hit to make them equal to other ranged spammable damage attacks, to give love to those Frost DPS out there. Clench still remains tank focused rather than DPS focused for Frost, and such has received a cost reduction to 1,487. It also applies Major Maim for 5 seconds at rank 4. So this might be our new ranged taunt. It is shorter range, so you've got to be more careful with it, but it also applies Major Maim and Minor Brittle every time you use it. That might be worth looking at as a option. Huh. I don't know if I think that's worth it. It is definitely something to look at and play with. Developer comments. With the introduction of Frostbite in Update 30, we saw a lot of discussion on the viability of frost damage sets and how their major drawback, regardless of their power, was that there was no frost damaging ability that could be used as spammable. Rather than bloating those sets further, we've decided to let Frost Touch and its morphs stand out. Frost Touch and Reach will now deal ranged spammable damage on the initial hit. Additionally, Frost Clench has been missing the mark for being a viable taunt compared to Puncture or Inner Fire, so we've decided to amp it up by introducing a source of on-demand Major Maim, while also reducing the cost. The changes to the base ability also helped to gain a form of on-demand Minor Brittle, helping out both DPS and tanks out regardless of the morph. So this is a lot of really good changes for Frost DPS. And I might have to go revisit my Frost DPS this patch and see what I can do with them with this, because this might be a game changer. Elemental Force now probably states it affects all status effect chances rather than only elemental status effects. Force Shock can now once again be reflected. Wall of Elements, Wall of Fire, and the morph's bonus damage against burning enemies didn't work past 9 seconds. That's fixed now, which is good. Elemental Susceptibility. Words are hard. Clearly, I don't have a functioning enough brain to do this sort of thing. This morph now persists indefinitely until the target leaves combat or dies, rather than lasting 20 seconds or refreshing whenever they take damage. That's kind of funny. That plus the Vanishron staff ought to be fun. Flurry, Bloodthirst now heals up to 30% of the damage done per hit, rather than 63 of the final hit's damage done. I like that change. It feels like a more consistent, responsive, I'm gonna stick in the fight and stab you a bunch thing. I like that. That feels good. Plus, this is the bleed damage morph, which means the Bloodthirster build might actually be a decent thing. I do still want to try that out at some point. We don't have a ton of bleed damage, though. Absorb now procs after any successful block. That's decent. Doesn't matter too much, though. Essence Drain now has increased major mending time. Also now heals a friendly target within 12 meters of the enemy you heavy attacked, up from 6. Increase the healing done by 25-50%. up from 1530, and fixed an issue where the passive could critically strike, despite the initial hit also already being able to do that. No double crits allowed at the dinner table. Oh, but my double crits. Fine. Healing Sprigs, they took away the visual effect for the Magicka restore. Cool. Life Giver, fixed an issue where there was a short window of time where all spells could cost nothing after activation, and fixed an issue where this morph could fail to be recognized as a Resto Staff ability in some rare cases. Okay. Cool. So that's weird. The Healing Sprigs change is decent. Absorb's decent. Essence Drain. I don't really care much for about the Essence Drain one. I'm pretending to because I mean it's a fun passive and I do like it, but I don't think this is gonna change much about how we play. The increased major mending is kind of nice though. Two-handed Berserker Strike, fixed an issue with a pen check on the direct damage, was not consistent with other sources. This ability and the Carve morph now apply a damage shield on you when cast, equal to the scaling coefficient of the initial hit, not off of damage done. This might change which morph of this we use. We might be going to Brawler now. Or we might be going off of Brawler now to Carve for the bleed. Increase the cost of all versions. Adjusted the area to hit a 300-degree arc with a 6-meter radius rather than a 140-degree arc with a 3-meter radius to better align with the attack's visual appearance and to help make it more clear which attacks should land and which should not. Increase the base size of the morph's damage by approximately 7% to ensure it matches. Or the damage shield by approximately 7%. And Carve, the bleed now stacks 3 times Blood for the Blood God. Developer comments: Brawler is currently the clear winner in terms of morph options as it scales far more efficiently in power per target. This, paired with the fact that melee builds require staying power, makes the defensive option the clear winner, but made Carve feel weak no matter how high the damage could be adjusted. By adding a baseline shield to these abilities, we hope to see more active choice between the morphs. Will you let the blood flow for you and your enemies, or staunchly stand in their faces? I think that this is a really good change, especially since I love Cleave and I love Brawler, but I do kind of like the idea of Carve, especially if I want to do a bleed-focused build at one point. Carve will probably end up on that list. Armor, light armor, annulment, harness magicka. Fixed an issue where you could get more than 3 magicka restored from this ability per cast. Soul Lock now procs on any killing blow rather than only killing blows with weapon attacks. This is kind of nice because, I mean, it means we get more soul gems. Not that I'm hurting for soul gems or anything. It's just, can never have too many soul gems. Soul Summons now properly follows the listed cooldown. And Soul Strike, fixing issues where this ultimate and morph's reveal was not a negative effect and therefore could not be purged or be visible on your buff tracker. Vampiric Drain, this ability and its morphs now heal 25% of your missing health per tick, up from 23. It no longer ranks up as 1.1% per damage done per rank, and now ranks up the morphed effect, Exhilaration Drain giving ultimate, and Drained Vigor giving more stamina. That's kind of cool. Fighters Guild. Fighters Guild got changed a little bit, too. And I think it's for the better. I don't think anyone's going to agree with me on that, but I think Fighters Guild changes were for the better. So Camo Hunter now reveals hidden enemies within 8 meters. They now check for hidden enemies more consistently. now prevent stealth and invisibility for 4 seconds rather than 3. And the hidden passive of this ability and its morphs sense evil now only highlight player werewolves and vampires rather than any undead, Daedra, or werewolf creature. It's better to represent the targets your skilled hunter bonus works against. Evil Hunter now also increases the radius of the reveal to 12 meters. Skilled Tracker. This passive now increases the damage of your fighter's guild abilities by 10%, and an additional 10% against player vampires and werewolves, rather than increasing your damage done against with fighters' guild abilities by 20% against undead, Daedra, or werewolves. Passive is currently attempting to validate a very long list of specific target checks on the back end to apply. Rather than continuing this, will now only check 3 things instead of 23 each time you deal damage while retaining its flavor in PvP environments. And there's another spoiler inside there that says nothing. Trap Beast now lasts for 15 seconds after their delay rather than a minute. So, let's talk about the skilled tracker changes. I think that Expert Hunter is fine. I also don't know what that means in a PvP environment, so again, take that statement with a grain of salt. Skilled Tracker is now a flat 10% bonus damage to Fighters Guild abilities. Awesome. An additional 10% against player vampires and werewolves. I do like that they're taking down the amount of checks, because if that helps with the stability of this game in some situations and lets things react faster, I am perfectly okay with that. I do think that this line here is the biggest deal in the entire Fighters Guild thing. Like, Trap Beast lasting for 15 seconds, this line does not matter. And I think the same can be, and the same will be said for Fire Rune later. But this is a 10% increase to the damage of our Barbed Trap, which a lot of characters end up running Barbed Trap. So having Barbed Trap deal 10% more damage from a passive seems pretty good. Fire Rune, its ability and its morphs traps now last for 15 seconds rather than 30. Again, I don't think that matters. They should be triggering within that 15 seconds anyways. Mage Light and Inner Light now reveal hidden enemies within 8 meters, up from 6. All versions now check more consistently, and they prevent stealth for 4 seconds, up from 30. Deliberation no longer grants major protection, and instead grants a unique 30% unique damage mitigation to get the passive's power back to where it was meant to be before they nerfed major protection. Imbue Weapon. Crushing Weapon now applies Major Breach rather than healing you for percent of the damage caused, to help ensure the thing being crushed wasn't your dreams. This is a nice upgrade for Crushing Weapon, especially for more solo-focused stuff. I don't think it changes the overall power level that much, unless you're in a group where you need to be applying Major Breach while running Crushing Weapon. It does make the comparisons with it and Crystal Weapon much more blatant. So there's that. Inner Fire now will only apply the unique visuals if the synergy is successfully applied. Fixed an issue where Inner Fire and Rage were placing an extra negative effect. And Inner Beast lets you deal more damage for the very few bruiser tanks, and it now only works against non-player characters. Alright, let's talk about the 2 biggest skill changes here, though. Magicka Detonation and Revealing Flare. Magicka Detonation deals less damage initially, but now scales higher per target hit. If you're hitting more than 3 targets, it's going to be really good. If you're hitting less than 3 targets, it's going to be worse. This might work our way into ad clearing situations now. That might be a thing again. Huh. Updated the tooltip to state the scaling works on the initial target as well. This should reduce the potential of this potency of the skill against smaller groups, while still retaining its high damage against large ones. I feel like this is actually just a buff to the skill overall, because especially for a PvE perspective, I can't say for PvP because again, I don't play it enough. But increase the scaling per target in the sort of large ad packs that you're going to get in trials and in some large pools of dungeons. This is going to be pretty gross. This might actually just be a thing we run now. Support revealing flare. Same change of prevent stealth and invisibility for 4 seconds. This ability and its morphs now passively grant major protection well slotted to ensure they do not feel lackluster to slot while not actively trying to deny stealth and invisibility, similar to Mage Light or Expert Hunter granting major buffs. We now have a slottable skill for major protection. That's pretty darn good. Champion points. This is where we go off the rails. Don't want that. So 3 new sub-constellations focus on more core combat gameplay, as well as focusing more on universal engagement for PvE encounters, as the original nodes tended to have very limited diversity in that regard. Each of these constellations is filled with new slottable stars only. Wind Chaser is movement speed and sprinting. Movement speed by 2% per stage, 5 stages, 10 points. Thrill of the Hunt, whenever you kill an enemy, you gain Major Expedition for 3 seconds per stage, 2 stages, 25 points. Bonus speed's not terrible. Maybe not worth the slottable. Refreshing Stride's kind of cool. When you gain health and magic recovery per stage while sprinting, 5 stages, 10 points per stage. Survivor Spite. Increase your health, magic, and stamina recovery by 30 per stage while under a negative effect, 5 stages, 10 points per stage. Pain's Refuge. Reduce your damage taken by 1% per negative effect on you, up to a max of 20%. 1 stage, 50 points. Restlessness. Gain major protection for 3 seconds after being stunned or feared. 1 stage, 50 points. We're not stunned or feared enough for that to be decent, unless we're doing, This is a PvP thing, still. It feels like. Walking Fortress. Wardmaster. Reduce damage taken by 2% while blocking with a damage shield active. 5 stages, 10 points per stage. That's not terrible for Dragonknight. That's another 10%. Soothing Shield. When you successfully block, you have 15% chance to restore health per stage. 5 stages, 10 points per stage. And Bracing Anchor made it through. Increase block mitigation by 4% per stage, but lower your movement speed by 16% at all stages. 5 stages, 10 points per stage. Cool. Tanking just got a whole lot easier. Just gotta keep your sustain up and block through everything now. Ironclad has been renamed to Fortified to prevent confusion for legacy players, as the original Ironclad has made its return. Juggernaut reduce the damage reduction to the star to 1% down from 2% to ensure its power is similar to other damage reduction sources in regard to its ease of access to keep up. And Rejuvenation reduced the bonus health, magic, and stamina recovery to 1.8 down from 3. The final recovery will be 90 rather than 150. This is the current thing you have slotted that we're dropping this patch for other things. Ironclad is back in Warfare. Slottable Star, reducing the damage taken from direct damage attacks by 2% per stage, 5 stages, 10 points per stage. Guys, tanking got easier this patch. This is fun. Did several items to be more performant on the server. Can now be used in campaigns that do not allow item set procs. List. Fix an issue where perfected item set pieces were not showing active bonuses correctly. Frenzied Momentum fixed multiple issues where the set would fail to generate stacks when casting some stamina abilities. Cool. Prismatic Weapon. This effect now deals damage equal to a normal absorb enchantment, and restores health, magicka, and stamina equal to half the potency of a singular resource, rather than dealing bonus damage to undead and Daedra. Similar to Skilled Hunter, this enchantment was too narrow in its use case, requiring it to check too many cases where it should and should not work. Rather than continuing that, this enchantment will now fit the proper theme for prismatic enchantments, where it offers all of the 3 primary resources in one at half the efficiency of a singular one. So this is probably actually a pretty good enchantment for tanks now. You put it on your weapon and get resources back consistently. The Diamond's victory change went through, better follows the requirement of its statement requiring an ability cast, which makes it a little bit worse on Dragonknight, but the Sorcerer does not care. Sorcerer don't care. Sorcerer don't give a crap. Grave Stake Collector, fix an issue where this set could fail with multiple players, and fix an issue where it has a hidden 1.1 second cooldown, in addition to not being able to have multiple stakes. Paladin's Aptitude got reworked to Paladin's Wrath. It grants a damage shield based on your weapon and spell damage, and a stack of Wrath of Whitestrake for 10 seconds when you kill an enemy. Wrath grants 100 weapon and spell damage per stack, but causes you to take 1% of your max health as Oblivion second damage every second per stack, up to 10 stacks maximum. This sets 2 through 4 are now weapon and spell damage, offensive penetration, and weapon and spell damage, rather than max health, stamina recovery, and magicka recovery. And it no longer causes your weapon and spell damage to be the higher of the 2 values. I think this is a fine change. Losing the old Paladin's Aptitude probably hurts some hybrid builds, but overall, I think Paladin's Wrath is a more interesting and unique set that plays into his lore better and is probably just the better set overall. Auroran's Thunder is now properly labeled. Azure Blade Reaper is now obeying its cooldown. Crusader got completely reworked. It now grants a damage shield based on your weapon and spell damage for 6 seconds, and creates an area of effect beneath you for 10 seconds when you deal direct damage with a blink, charge, leap, teleport, or pull. Every 2 seconds, the area grants you and group members inside Major Courage for 12 seconds. This effect can occur once every 20 seconds. So, Major Courage for 12 seconds on a blink, charge, leap, teleport, or pull. That's not bad at all. Like, it's not gonna have the greatest uptime. Wait. So the area lasts for 10 seconds, and ticks with Major Courage every 12 seconds. So you can keep a 100% uptime on it as long as you're more or less activating a blink, charge, leap, teleport, or pull on cooldown. We might have our Yulnakrid for werewolves. We run Tormentor Crusader on the werewolf tank now. No, because we already had our Yulnakrid from, okay. Never mind. We had Minor Courage already. Still, this isn't a terrible, like, either brawler tank set or just run it as a more supporty DPS. It's kind of cool. I don't hate it. Might have to try that out at some point. Pestilent Host now stacks between multiple wearers, large groups beware. The other thing, Crusader is also all now weapon and spell damage rather than max stamina, stamina recovery, and max stamina. Pillar of Nirn, the initial hit can now be blocked. Sunderflame now has a cooldown to prevent situations where repeated heavy attacks prevented it from dealing any damage. Unleashed Terror now properly labels as a proc and has a 2-second delay before it deals damage. Total damage remains the same. Viper Sting now has a 1-second delay and ticks 4 times instead of 5. The total damage over the duration remains the same. Monster Masks, Kjoljan's Nightmare fixed an issue where you could still generate stacks for a short window against targets who are recently affected. Kragath now better matches its visual effect and adjusts its visual frequency to match its actual frequency. decrease the width but increase the length. Selene monster set will no longer spawn a real spirit bear pet, and now summons a visual bear to maul your foes. This should significantly improve its performance without changing its behavior too drastically, other than fixing multiple issues where it can synergize with sets such as Necropotence or Hunt Leader. Dang. Hunt Leader Selene might have actually been good at one point. That could have been a funny setup. Telestrix is now properly labeled as a proc. Storm Atrofist can now be properly dispelled as it is pretty darn magical when you think about it. Yeah, a magic rock lightning monster fist is gonna be pretty magical. Veladreth's spores longer the set's disgusting spores longer explode after hitting a target and instead now continue to travel in a straight line. So the spores from Veladreth don't have a stop until they reach their maximum limit. That's intriguing. That could be a damage buff for the Veladreth set. Huh. Pearls was incorrectly proccing off of damaging abilities that healed you when they dealt damage. Okay. Nikolaus, I don't know why this is in Overland because this is a Blessed Crucible set. I don't know why they keep shoving it into the Overland in these patch notes. Now grants a stack of Nikolaus's Resolve for 5 seconds when you successfully block, which after 8 stacks are consumed and you completely avoid the next direct damage attack made against you within 5 seconds. I don't think this changes much. I think Nikolaus is going to stay in the same spot it always has. Sithis' Touch. Instead of granting Major Berserk with the Blade of Woe and having max health crit chance, it is now max stamina, max magicka, weapon and spell damage, and 5% movement speed for 5% movement speed for 30 seconds when you kill an enemy, stacking up to 20 stacks maximum, and invisibility for 3 seconds when activating. So this is a very... I was messing around with this set on the PTS, and if you max... I was doing it on a vampire with the... I don't remember what the skill is called, but there's the... Words are hard. There's the passive from Vampire Stage 3 that you get like 300 weapon and spell damage when you come out of stealth. So you run up to someone with Sithis' Touch, murder them, go invisible, murder the next guy. And you can just keep chaining that passive. Goram it. It's gonna bug me. Skill trees, world, vampire. Strike from the shadows. When you leave sneak, invisible, or mist form, your weapon and spell damage is increased by 300. So Sithis' Touch, when you drop out, you get 6 seconds of 300 damage when you drop out of that 3-second invisibility. It's kind of a fun combo. I don't think it's like legitimately good, but it's fun. And it's nice to like mess around with. I don't know, it could be fun for like a Predator of the Night sort of build. Maybe run it with Vampire Lord. Or not Vampire Lord. What's the one that increases all of the damage of your vampire stuff and just go do a full vampire build with Sithis' Touch, that could be kind of funny. Something to look into later. Stygian. Hybrid stats rather than exclusively Magicka-based stats. 4-piece is now offensive pen. The 5-piece now requires you to be in combat to proc. What does Stygian do? It's this one. Spell damage, maximum magicka. When you leave sneak or invisibility, your... Oh, and it's a medium armor set. Your spell damage is increased by... So it is now, weapon and spell, offensive pen, your spell and weapon damage are increased, I guess. I think it's going to be spell and weapon damage, and not just spell damage still. That would kind of defeat the point. That is a fun, like, stealth ambusher set. That might be the other thing we look at for Synthesis Touch, is combine it with Stygian. Silvara's scales, the initial hit from the set can now be properly blocked. Twin Sisters, where the damage over time could be dodged or blocked in some cases. So apparently Twin Sisters is not meant to be blockable, but Silvara's scales are. Silvara. There's no L. Deadly Strike is reduced down to 18% and now works on all channeled and damage over time effects rather than only martial-based ones. Okay, side-graded Deadly Strike. Yay! Serious talk, jewelry and weapons of Deadly Strike on all Templars now. Let's go, boys. Deadly Strike Templar. Actually, this might mean that we do the same thing. We could do the same thing that we used to do on this patch. Might mean we do the same thing we used to do on Stamplar on Magplar, with just like throwing on one of the executes on the front bar as well, and just running all Fighters Guild abilities on the front bar, and just Deadly Strike body, Deadly Strike weapons and jewelry, Mother Sorrow body, and just spam jabs at people. It's a bad plan. It's not gonna be the most optimal, but it sure as heck is going to be one of those, like, super easy output, effort into damage out builds. That might be a thing now. Galarian's Revenge is now properly labeled. Powerful Assault and Meritorious Service. Fix an issue where these sets did not properly follow their intended sorting behavior with how they applied. They're now smart targeting. Yay! Powerful Assault's useful now. He says, ignoring the fact that it was more or less useful the entire time, and he's just being salty. Powerful Assault now actually works for targeting. Frabjous Day, Kalu Kalay. Vice Cannon of Venom, damage over time can now stack from multiple users. Cool. Trial sets. Kind's Wind will fix an issue where it would activate when casting an ability while under the effect of a major buff, rather than an ability that applies a major buff to you or an ally. Kind's Wind wasn't worth it anyways. Roar of Elkosh increased this set's armor reduction cap to 600, up from 300. Perhaps damage dealers will probably wear it, but probably not. Guys, Lokesti isn't worth it anymore. Roar of Elkosh is not going to make the cut. You have made too many good stamina DPS sets for Roar of Elkosh to make the cut. It's got to compete with Solzons. It's got to compete with Grizzly Gourmet. It's got to compete with Kinrods. It's got to compete with freaking Reliquin. There are too many. It's got to compete with Sogvin. It's got to compete with even just like Leviathan and advancing Yokita. There are too many things for Roar of Elkosh to compete with that it doesn't keep up with. Sozon's Torment can now be used with multiple people in a group. Twilight Remedy can no longer apply to yourself, because I'm guessing they didn't expect Lady Thorn, or they didn't think about Lady Thorn the set when they designed Lady Thorn. Yep. Power is designed to be selfless in nature and would require reductions in power to retain this oversight in behavior, since it was designed well before Unnerving Boneyard, Lady Thorn, or Blood Altar existed in their current forms. Yeah, okay. Yondir's Might. Weapon damage does not apply. Fix an issue where the weapon damage did not apply to your abilities. Oh, that is an unfortunate bug. It now grants Giant's Endurance for 5 seconds per stack rather than an indefinite, and it no longer requires you to have 5 pieces active to retain the stacks since they're not permanent. Should fix multiple issues and inconsistencies. Okay. Yondir's got a side grade. Maybe not. That might be worse. I don't remember exactly how Yondir's works. Yondir's might. Critical damage grants a stack of Giant's Endurance up to 1 every half second. Each stack adds 41 weapon damage and stacks up to 10 times. Fully charged heavy attacks removes Giant's Endurance and grants Giant's Might, increasing weapon damage to 63 per stack removed by 63, increasing weapon damage by 63 per stack removed. Cannot have endurance and might active at the same time. So you build up a bunch of stacks of weapon damage and then heavy attack and gain a ton more weapon damage and then repeat the process. Honestly, that's not terrible. I don't hate it. This might be worth front barring now. That could be fun. Guard stuff. Imperial City. Adds part of the fight with Uzai where invisible is fixed. Previewing in armor and weapons while in the polymorph will no longer result in strange appearances. Fixed an issue where you could use crow assistance while in werewolf. Fixed an issue where the souls on female light chest and robe pieces where the armor would cause a visual issue on the back. Fixed an issue where you were unable to preview the Veladreth's guy's helm. Crafting and economy, rebalanced master writ stuff. More master writ stuff. Fixed a quest pin for blacksmith certification and Daggerfall. Fixed a lingering issue with where some monsters would not drop crafting items during some events. Heartland Conqueror Dueling Crafting Station now displays the full set name. Updated a variety of weapon outfit styles to more accurately reflect how they function. Celestial Dramuther, Refabricated, Sea Giant, Sunspire, and Welkinar styles acquire hints to more accurately reflective of their actual acquisition method. Updated the source of the Argent Pelt and Blood Scent Dew style items to better match the motif style items sourced from other dungeons. Adjusted some cooking fires cameras to not skew oddly while in gamepad mode. Adjusted the preview of the Azure Blight Wildsteed so better frames. Homes, both unfurnished and furnished versions, once again show a plus sign next to their crown cost, as intended. Sanctum Ophidia, Stonebreaker, so this is the troll. Reduce the damage of Ground Slam, and Stonebreaker will no longer use Leaping Crusher. Why did they need to make Stonebreaker easier? Was he a problem? I don't know. Okay. Sanctum Ophidia got changed. Cool. Midyear Mayhem is getting changed up. Renamed to White Drake's Mayhem, retaining its connection to Pelinel, but reworked in context so that it can run multiple times a year. The functionality is unchanged as well as the general structure. All that is changing is at this point in time is the name of the event and its references, and any additional updates will be telegraphed when the next event comes to Tamriel. Descriptions will be updated for Starmaid Wolfshed, Starmaid Sword Coronet, and Starmaid Diamond Diadem. Midyear's Victory Laurel Wreath is now known as the Mayhem Victor's Laurel Wreath. Each achievement for Midyear Mayhem will be updated where relevant to account for the name change, either in its proper name or in the achievement category. Their function has not changed, only the name and description where relevant. New Life fixed an issue where New Life Festival revelers were hanging out at the taverns all year round in Stonefalls. Go home, it's summertime! Hollowjack motif pages now come as a reward for Witches' Festival writs, allowing less gated progression through the achievement Happy Work for Hollowjack. This achievement description is updated to account for this. Fixed an issue where Witch Festival writs wouldn't point to cities like Rimmon, Solitude, or Leowin if you happened to be in those zones where the turn-in crates were located. Fixed an issue where you were unable to earn pristine dragon heart scale, defiled oathstone, or cinder ash plate in some cases. Correlated companion related achievements refer to epic quality equipment as purple quality are corrected. Updated the text on Room for Two achievement to specify that a companion house guest needs to be placed in a home in order to gain it. Corrected some minor typos in the text of companion achievement related to the Mages and Fighters Guild, where the guild's names had incorrect apostrophes. They don't agree on everything, but they're both very particular on that sort of thing. Camera will no longer pop through solid objects while swimming in tight spaces. More furnishing stuff I'm not going to read through all of. Water's Edge, where some distant trees on the horizon were floating. Sibbins no longer has a flickering rim, and Jelvis Tyranndo's legs no longer twitch at the end of his turn when you spoke to him from certain angles. Fixing of housing editor stuff. Improve some load times. Minor performance edits for rain. Could fix an issue where you could get stuck in queue while entering an in-progress dungeon. System mails that are sent due to pre-purchasing by our collector's edition or other real-world purchases or activities will no longer expire. That's actually really nice. Fixed a crash that could occur when loading in from a character select or jumping between zones, and fixed a rare client freeze / crash issue that could occur in combat while using first-person view. Who actually uses first-person view for combat? Is that a thing? Do people do that still? Don't use first-person view for combat. Third person is so much better for this style of game. Fixed a whole mess of floating, clipping, sunken monsters, books, harvest nodes, treasure chests, birds, dogs, cats, wombats, and Vardvarks. Okay, there are no wombats in ESO, you got me. I'm glad you read this far, though. The dry humor of these patch notes is always fun. Many pathing issues with NPCs and monsters in the base game, reducing instances where they walked through walls, over tables, tripped over crates, bashed their rakes into one another, and shovel empty air. Cool. Pathing issues fixing. Yay. Number of typos and erroneous punctuations in quest dialogues, theater scenes, or books. Number of issues in Tamriel where certain service NPCs would still provide service to you if you were a stage 4 vampire or a werewolf. Oh, there's no longer that one fearless shopkeeper who will look at the werewolf and go, yeah, okay, pleasure doing business. Number of issues related to incorrect interaction prompts with NPC use as opposed to talk, or prompts that didn't do anything, more forthcoming. Number of interactions, cameras with NPCs, particularly ones that are levitating so that they are properly in frame. Number of issues with VO timing in the base game and beyond, with more to come. And mounts can now be previewed at the Stable Master. Goat herds in ESO no longer have goats following them around. After a years-long sting operation to report the murder of their goat herds, the goats have decided that this line of work is way too depressing and have gone back to climbing on containers and producing a prodigious amount of poop. Good to know! Amputating the hand. Bug fix that would block the quest. Forsaken Heart's Cave. Fixed a portal in Alakir that had a dev-facing gibberish name. Bankorai fixed some issues with hiding. No longer be directed through Bankorai Garrison during a handful of stolen dreams. A marriage in ruins. Fixed a couple of issues where the quest could be blocked. Fixed an issue where certain effects will spontaneously play at any time you approach it when originally spawns the quest for Freedom's Chains. Waking Darkness, you can now return to the church and lay the prince to rest if you leave during the ritual as long as you talk to the priest. Harvest Art had a slight dev fix. So you could discover the Sephora Way Shrine when you approach the Silent Mire Way Shrine. Why was that a thing? Okay. Partners in Crime, fish an issue where the puzzle wouldn't complete if it was solved in a specific order. Fix an issue where a portal was called a cart. It's a dialect of Cyrodiilic. Yeah, that's it. They call them carts out in Calovia. I wouldn't be surprised. Most Colovians are kind of dumb. Please don't kill me, Vanus. Not Vanus, Varian. Keeper of Bones. Fixed an issue where you could get 2 Drindoths at once. The world isn't ready for that. It's fair. Unsafe Haven. Fixed a quest indicator that would point to the wrong entrance of the fort. Green Shade. Bug fix, bug fix, bug fix, bug fix. Or visual fix. Prophet will no longer chase you into sunless hollow world space to try and offer you quests. Oh. He's less persistent now. Soul Shriven, you can get fix an issue where you could get respective responses with the hood figure if you belong to a different alliance than the zone you were in when you spoke to her. Malabel, Father's Promise. Fix the map pin that shows up after you talk to the aspect of Hercene, so it's no longer in the wrong spot. Rivenspire, Bloodstained Shield. Fix some doors that zombies could shove you through and run through themselves. Liberation of North Point. Fix an issue where the companions could be despawned on completing some objectives. The vendor is back at her cart. Break's gone on long enough. Can no longer spawn wades and muck outside the swamp. And warm welcome. Fix an issue where the treasure hunter personality torch would display while your character was hiding in a crate. I mean, that's kind of funny. Stros Mackay, Tip of the Spearhead, fixed an issue where Captain Clean was visible but not interactable if you completed this quest. What was the one with Hercene already? Hercene's gift fixed an issue where heavy attacks made when transforms didn't restore stamina. Oh, there was an aspect of Hercene line. That was a quest one, I'm guessing. Probably, yeah. And I'm just being stupid. Malabal Tor, Father's Promise. Quest stuff. General UI updated the text on several endeavors. Variety of collectibles that use the term World Boss instead of the term Group Boss. So we now have World Boss as the official term and everything. Tooltips for equipped companion items will now state that they are hidden by an outfit, polymorph, etc. Fixed an issue where you will receive an error when opening where you would receive an error while opening the deposit tab on a storage chest. Fixed the UI error that could occur after after using the search field consecutively on different UIs. Some display issues with ability bar timers have been fixed. The system mail informing you of your mercantile victory will now have the guild's name listed, so it tells you which guild you bought from when you buy from guilds now. Okay. Updated champion points now has correct constellation. Unlocking champion points tutorial now has correct constellation names. Updated outdated reference to groups larger than 12 players. Tutorials for controlling companions will no longer show up as part of the tutorials for scrying. Fixing an error of the pop-up tutorial text, mislabeling the key used to confirm refine action in keyboard and mouse controls. And fix an issue where ingredient names and alchemy stations would overlap in the Japanese game client. Okay. That is everything in this week's patch notes. All in all, pretty good changes. I like a lot of them. I am looking forward to this new expansion. I am definitely going to be running some Scorian's Feast stuff. Or not Scorian's Feast. I'm going to be running a lot of Dread Cellar and probably a good chunk of Red Petal Bastion for Grizzly Gourmet. So, I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching this very, very long video. And until then, good luck, stay safe, and don't die.